let me introduce you to my good friend Lucian. Lucian is Latin for light, and boy does his shine bright. This is his story.
My name is Lucian Fowle.
And I'm his mom, Sally Walker.
My name is Winter Ryan. I'm Lucian's big brother.
I was very excited and surprised when I found out I was pregnant with Lucian, but a little bit worried because prior to Lucian I had had a stillbirth, and so it was going to be a high-risk pregnancy. All the monitoring and ultrasounds, everything was completely normal until he was born. The doctor came in and told us he had some trouble regulating his temperature, so he was in the NICU for a little bit. He was noticing some what they call dysmorphic features, and I was horrified that he said that. I'm like, what do you mean my baby's beautiful? He's not dysmorphic.
I remember hearing that he was never going to walk or talk, and just wondering how you live life like that.
Well, when we got home, Lucian quickly, I noticed he was having trouble breastfeeding. He was having trouble latching. He was starting to lose consciousness. I couldn't keep him awake. He was just in a constant state of sleep. No matter what I did, it became clear that it was going to be critical that we go back to the hospital. And the doctors and our pastor arrived and performed the last rites on Lucian because we thought he was going to leave us. They determined that he had no muscle tone. So he wasn't able to feed because he didn't even have the strength in his facial muscles to be able to extract nourishment. So we had to go through a long process of figuring out how to feed him. At 2 months, he had to have his tongue sutured to the inside of his lip because he had obstructive apnea, where he didn't have the strength to hold his tongue in place. So whenever he would lie back, his tongue would obstruct his windpipe. They needed to perform that so that he wouldn't suffocate on his own tongue. That was the start of a really long journey, and I think he was about 3 or 4 months old when we started with Susan, when we met Susan Blum, the angel of our lives.
I'm Susan, and I got to meet Lucian about a little over 17 years ago when he was just a little guy. I'm a pediatric physical therapist, and he changed my life. He's changing the world. Lucian was one of my clients in the early intervention program.
Susan was tireless in her attempts to provide him with the type of therapy that would serve him best.
I was using all of the traditional strategies that therapists use with children. Unfortunately, he was making very little progress. I just ran out of options. It was like a knife in my heart because I didn't know what to do. I stood on the sidewalk outside their house and I started to cry, and I prayed for an answer to help him and to help his family. And I went home and I found an email blast from a gentleman that had developed a therapy concept to help adults that were struggling with things and had made great advances. And I called him up and I said, will this help my kid?
She came back and she said, I think I found something to help Lucian.
He showed me what to do, and Monday morning, Lucian started to make progress finally. And a year later, he was walking. And then after we started working together, all the therapists were saying, what are you doing? What's making this difference? And I said, well, it's TMR. What's that? TMR is not a technique. It's a perspective of looking for hidden potential of what somebody can do, not focusing as physical therapy traditionally looks at what somebody can't do. And then rather than doing painful stretching, you shorten the tissues instead of pulling on them. And recent science says that hydrates the tissues and makes them more extensible. And rather than trying to pull them, we said, what does your body want to do, Lucian? And we helped snuggle him in that position and move into that position, the positions of ease, which gave him the range of motion. And then from there, we could build on the building blocks of what he had as emerging control. One thing that I had not shared with the family before I met Lucian, I had had an injury, and that injury gave me horrific pain. I was living in pain. I was trying the same stuff on myself, and it healed me too. I could go hiking again. It changed everything.
through helping Lucien find a solution, you found your own solution. I just absolutely love that.
Took until I grew up quite a bit to really understand how impressive you are. All the work that went into it. How proud I am of you.
Lucien, we are so sorry. I was trying so hard not to cry.
I'll never do anything like that with my life. Beat all the odds, you know. Where you were 17 years ago to where you are now is pretty darn impressive. Susan came in and did what she did. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on it, but I think you could do anything that you want. Anything.